Could Calvinism lead you into atheism? Let's find out today on Exegeting Calvinism and Provisionism. Greetings, welcome back to Exegeting Calvinism and Provisionism. My name is Michael Faber, your exegetical guide, and today we're going to look at a couple of videos of Calvinists who became atheists but didn't give up Reformed theology. And it seems as though their leaving the faith was a result of Calvinist theology. Before we get started, make sure you hit that like button. And when we're done, hit that subscribe button if you like the content, as it really helps the channel along. So without further ado, this is Derek Webb on the right here. He was the leader of, I believe, Caedmon's Call, a longtime Calvinist. And one day decided he probably wasn't saved anymore because, well, he didn't think he was saved. He didn't think he'd been regenerated yet. So let's listen to what he has to say.
Where I leave it now. And with my Christian friends who try to convince me of this, I say, listen, like, I don't know why you're trying to persuade me. Because your own Bible says
it's a gift.
That it's a gift. It's the work of the Spirit, start to finish. It's a removing of a heart of stone and replacing with a heart of flesh. That is not something you can do for me.
Yeah.
So if it's true, we're both depending on the Spirit to show up. I'm literally in the grave next to Lazarus, waiting
for the quickening ray.
waiting to hear my name.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lay in there dead till he shows up.
Yeah. Somebody asked me near the beginning of this year living Christianly, well, what would it take for you to believe? What would it take for you to believe in God? Well, that's easy. God would have to give me faith.
Yeah.
So here's somebody who was the leader of a Christian band, preached the gospel, presumably to hundreds, thousands of people, and suddenly decided, you know what, I think I still have the heart of stone. I don't think I'm regenerate. I'm still waiting for God to regenerate me. And so in spite of the fact that he believes that Calvinism is true, doesn't think that he's saved and doesn't think there's anything he can do to be saved. He's just waiting for God to regenerate him. Is this a danger of the Calvinist system? I think it is. Because if you can convince yourself that you're elected, that you believe, well, then you can believe that you're saved. But if you come to the point where you don't think you believe and you don't think you're saved and you have a Calvinist belief system where you're saying, well, I guess I just have to wait. There's nothing I can do. There's nothing my friends can do. It's just I have to wait to see if God's going to regenerate me, see if I'm elect or not. And that certainly is a valid view if you're not convinced that you're elect. So yeah, I think there is something of a risk here. Let's look at our second example.
Up to it. So the things that actually started leading up to it, ironically, had nothing to do with Reformed theology.
And it he's referring to is leaving Christianity. So.
In Calvinism, I mentioned this to you before the show. I actually think, as far as systematic theology goes, if you're going to hold kind of an inerrantist view, a view of the Scripture as like a comprehensive message from one divine author, with human authors as writing it down, all that kind of stuff with the Chicago Statement of Inerrancy and all that. I actually think Reformed Calvinism is the most consistent way you're going to do it. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, like there's something fundamentally wrong with that, and so now I can go look at open theism or Arminianism. Like those were worse. Like if I'm going to take the Bible seriously, those are worse ways to do it. But it started being fundamental contradictions between what I believed about God because I'm still a classical theist. I still think God is omnimax. I still think God is simple, ase, necessary, right? I still hold to those types of beliefs.
Right.
There was actually a strong disconnect between that very high view of God and the very national pagan Yahweh of the Old Testament, and even getting into the New Testament, the way that Jesus looked at God and religion, it was very obviously in the Old Testament it became very tribal. It was very very tribal, very this world. And as I started reading through a bunch of the other myths of the ancient Near East and other ones, which honestly made me love the Bible more.
So he loves the Bible more, but his view of God that is informed by Calvinism was inconsistent with the God of the Bible. So again, we have Calvinist beliefs causing somebody to see inconsistencies with how the Bible describes God. And because of his Calvinist beliefs, again, leaving Christianity, apostatizing. And I know your Calvinist friends are all going to say, well, he was never a believer. He, for 20 years, was an apologist. He was an ordained Presbyterian minister. Okay, this wasn't just some, guy sitting in a pew who had a YouTube channel. He was very well informed. He was very much involved in the church. I would say very much a believer. And here he is walking away because his Calvinist beliefs were inconsistent with what he thought Scripture said, and he was unwilling to give up his Calvinist beliefs, and so he apostatized. Is this a concern? I think it is. I think you have to be careful as a Calvinist not to hold on to the fundamentals of Calvinism too strongly, because if you find it inconsistency with Scripture, or you suddenly feel like you're maybe not elect, you could just walk away. And this is why a lot of people who think that free will is in the Bible think that it is important, because in part, your salvation is up to you in that you have to fulfill the requirements that God has set. And then you know whether you believe or not. Derek Webb thought, I don't feel like I'm elect. I don't feel like I'm regenerate. Therefore, I must not be regenerate. Therefore, I'm waiting for God. And he decided there was nothing he could do. If you believe in free will, if you believe that we are the ones that choose to believe, there is something that we can do to respond to the gospel, to respond to God's call, to deal with issues of crises of faith that Calvinists don't have an option for, because either you're saved or you're not from the foundation of the world. Either God regenerates you or not from the foundation of the world. And if your path leads you to think you should apostatize, you don't have a choice in the matter. You can say, I just don't feel like I'm regenerate. I don't feel like I'm that Calvinism is correct, and yet I think Calvinism is the best interpretation of the Bible. So here we have two examples of Calvinism leading to people apostatizing because they are Calvinists. Now, you hear people leaving the faith from various traditions, but you don't hear people leaving the faith because they fully believed their various traditions. And that's really the difference. You might find some maybe in the holiness movement who said, I'm just not holy enough for God. But that's even consistent with the holiness movement. It's not a consistent belief there. So consistently believing in Calvinism and taking it to its logical extremes, taking it to maybe I'm not elect, I don't feel like I'm elect, or taking it to the view of God that Calvinism has that I think is consistent with Scripture is inconsistent with the view of God in the Bible. These are dangerous things, and things that I think Calvinists need to be aware of, and maybe consider moving to a free will type system where you actually do have assurance, not because you think you can convince yourself that you're elect, or you think that your system probably is found in the Bible, but rather because we believe. And we are the ones that do the believing, and we can know that we believe because it was our choice. It was something that we did. And so to me, that's true assurance, that we know that we believe because believing is something that we have chosen to do. And so that's it. Thanks for watching this video. My name is Michael Faber. This is Exegeting Calvinism and Provisionism, and we'll see you next time.